Perfect. Plug it in here. Okay. All right.
All right, welcome once again to Rich Brown Rewind. This is an impromptu Rich Brown Rewind, and the reason it's impromptu is, well, it wasn't planned. Woke up this morning to a post by the comedian Bob Greenberg that we had lost Joyce Randolph, and I was really sorry to see that and read that because she was our oldest surviving Beyond Vaudeville guest. At one time, we had a number of guests in their 90s, but Joyce Randolph was the only one still alive at age 99, and she passed away yesterday. We now have our next guest who will be turning 90, our former Beyond Vaudeville guest, will be Shirley Jones, who is turning 90 pretty soon, I think in another 2 months or so. So anyway, I thought we'd do this tribute and we'd show the episode. Joyce appeared on Beyond Vaudeville July 19th, 1988 with her husband, Dick Charles. We talked about her career and we talked about their fun lives that they were having in the city. They were members of the Lambs Club, proud members of the Lambs Club. So as I was thinking of how do we pay tribute to Joyce Randolph, Bob Greenberg quickly came to mind, not only because I saw his post, but because he is an active member of the Lambs Club. And I always was kind of curious about the Lambs Club and would love to hear more about it. And over the years, he got to meet Joyce Randolph several times through the Lambs Club. So without further ado, let's please welcome comedian Bob Greenberg. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
Fresh from a hot shower. How are you? Good to see you. How's everything?
Should we get your trademark face out of the way?
Oh, certainly.
In every shot.
Well, usually it's a right. Usually it's a selfie, isn't it?
Yes, anyone who is a friend of Bob Greenberg's will recognize that face because Bob has been photographed with countless people. Even with
give you money for this. Let's see. There's a Target bag happened to be here. Product placement.
Even with a Target bag, you'll make that face.
Why would give them any advertising? I'll block it. Here we go.
And I also didn't mention, Bob, which I should, is that it's your other connection here is that you do an incredible Ralph Cramden impression.
No, you are a mental case. No.
Now, I presume you got to do that impression for Joyce herself.
Yes. She came to a lot of the, we have these events called low jinks, which is like a, it's high jinks, but like this. No. And she would come to those, and I do Jackie Gleason in my act when I do stand-up, Mm-hmm. So, but on a particular birthday or two, they had me dress up as Ralph Cramden, and we have a lot of fun together. And she calls me Ralph, she calls me Jackie on those occasions. But when I would talk to her about the Jackie Gleason show, she often referred to him as Mr. Gleason, which I thought was kind of interesting,
Yes, and she did that on our show as well, and we'll play it. And I do have photos. Let me just put those up. So obviously, Joyce was best known for her role as Trixie in the inimitable Honeymooners. And what's the state of the Honeymooners today, Bob? I mean, this was, it was a staple in New York for so many years. But it's hard to imagine in today's world. It's black and white, and Ralph is threatening to punch his wife jokingly. But what's the state of the show these days, the Honeymooners?
Well, I think people could still connect with it. It's still on Pix, or what we used to call WPIX. It's on MeTV, I think, almost every night, if not at least on the weekends. I think it's on both channels, actually, on the weekends. People still relate to it. I can tell you when I do my stand-up act, and you probably know I do Lou Costello, I do Laurel and Hardy on occasion, the Stooges. The Honeymooners and the Stooges are still out there enough for younger people to recognize them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think they're aware. Yes, I think you could not do the Honeymooners today. It would be impossible, because of the threatening. Although in Gleason's time, he was toning it down, because originally Pert Kelton, who was the original Alice, he would say to her, "Pow," right in the kisser, and he'd have the fist right in her face.
Wow.
And that got softened in the Honeymooners to like a bang zoom, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I saw an even later episode, I think from Miami with Audrey Meadows, one of these musical things, a black and white one,
Mm-hmm.
And he does the bang zoom off camera. He doesn't do it right in front of her. So he was toning that down. But yeah, I think that the idea of a spouse threatening, is not PC.
Now, I don't know that Ed Norton, I don't remember him threatening Trixie, although it looks like
he does. He does at the end of the when they do the commercial. He says something. If my Trixie tells me I told you so, I'm going to give her a rap in the mouth or something. I mean, he does it on television, but
this is just the way.
The last slide of the episode.
This is the way they rolled. And it was at Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, where this was set? Well,
they said Bensonhurst.
Okay.
Really, it's Bushwick. But I think at the time, Bushwick was considered a little sketchy, So they changed it to Bensonhurst. But it was, Ralph's childhood home.
Yep. Now, here are the photos I was mentioning earlier.
Oh, yes.
So these were all at the Lambs Club. And was this an annual event that she would show up at? Or?
Okay, I can tell you, for instance, and I can tell you by my tie. That's a Christmas party or a holiday party. You see on the upper left? You see that tie? That I don't usually wear a tie like that. Only to my bar mitzvah would I wear a tie like that. Okay, so you can tell that's a very Christmassy tie, right?
Right.
I think to the right, maybe another holiday party, because I see a lot of green. Oh, yeah, look, there's a little snowman, and I always sing Hanukkah and Santa Monica, the Tom Lehrer song at the Christmas party, very apropos. But anyway, so that's definitely another holiday party, as you can see. Both at the Lambs. The one on the left, where I have no jacket, is in our main salon on the 5th floor. The one on the right is probably the 4th floor, which we share with the WNRC at the 3 West Club. And then lower left, that's a low jinks. A low jinks takes place on 2M. That's where they have dinner and whatnot. And that I did stand up there. I can tell I'm just dressed to perform. I've got my little red carnation there and everything. And then on the right was an out and out birthday celebration for Joyce. I don't recall what birthday. I'd have to check on Facebook. But we had a big to do, and I came out as Ralph Cramden, and I kind of, gently roasted her as Mr. Cramden. And that was the occasion that she kept calling me Jackie and Ralph, although she knew my name.
Now, do you remember the last time you saw her, and was she in failing health in recent years?
I'm thinking that the upper right-hand corner one, the one where I have my arm around her and the green tie and the green striped shirt,
yeah,
little snowman, that was probably the last time I saw her. I believe so. I'm just looking at her face and trying to gauge. But yeah, she would make, periodic visits to the club because of her connection with her husband, as you know, and all that. He was a shepherd at one point, but yeah, she was making less and less visits, but she would make the holiday party, of course, her birthday party, she would make. But she was there almost, weekly at one point when I joined the club. So
wow.
You could see her. Yeah.
And so it was maybe it had been 2 or 3 years since you last saw her, you think? Or
I'm afraid since COVID. So
yeah. Okay.
What's COVID? 3 years?
Yeah.
I would gather it's 3 years. I don't think she came out during COVID, or at least she didn't come out to the Lambs. We were in contact with her. I know a friend of mine wanted to speak to her, and I passed on the number, and they spoke. And I think I spoke to her briefly at that point. Mark Barron, who's the shepherd emeritus of the club, closed tabs on her and her son. Is her son Randy? I can't remember his name. Anyway, I've met the son, but I can't remember his name. Pardon me for that. But I think it's Randy.
And we're talking about the Lambs Club. The Lambs Club essentially was a group of, or is a group created for people in theater, or?
Yes. There was a Charles Lamb, and he had a sister, and they lived in England. And now we're going way, 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 way back. And actors were not respected or loved. They were despised. They were considered gypsies and thieves and whatever.
Right. And
there was no place for them to go. They couldn't join any clubs. They couldn't, So at some point, the Lambs, who were brother and sister, well-to-do people in England, I assume London, but I'm not certain, they would have parties on Sunday and invite all the actors from all the shows to come over. And they'd feed them. And then, of course, it was sort of like, oh, you want to get up and do a song? You want to do, that kind of thing. Right. Sort of the low jinks that we still do. And every Sunday, one actor would turn to the other actor and says, you going to the Lambs? You going to the Lambs? Well, eventually, the Lambs passed on. And I'm not too good on thinking the name, but one particular actor, a famous actor, if you do a little research, you can Google it, was somewhere. He was coming to the States. More of the British actors were all coming to the States to do something. And he said, why don't we form a club, like we used to go to the Lambs? They're going back and forth. And then said, let's call it the Lambs. And that's how it eventually, and it was the Lambs was the first club. Then I believe the Players came after. That was Booth, right? And then after that came the Friars, because George M. Cohan's father was a terrible drunk and he was pissing on himself. And they told Georgie, we're gonna kick. I keep thinking of John Huston's father because he played it in Yankee Doodle Dandy, but we're gonna kick Walter Huston out. No, we're gonna kick your father out of the club, and you can't, George M. Cohan was like, you can't kick, my dad out of the club. So he formed the Friars, more or less. That's how that happened. So, so it's the Lambs, the Players, the Friars, and whatever else came below.
And the Lambs, does this meet on Gramercy Park, or is that elsewhere?
Okay, so much confusion. I always tell people if we do readings and we have screenings and things. If I was to invite you to the club, I would say come to the 3 West Club or 3 West 51st Street. Why that is we were at a location for many years. I bet you were there, the one at 44th Street. Mm-hmm. It's called the Lambs Club. I think the front is historic.
Right.
We were there for so many years. Like the Friars were at 55th Street for so many years. We were there for so many years. But whatever, we lost the club.
Okay.
And a very famous restaurateur took over the place and called it the Lambs Club. And of course, the shepherd at the time, didn't secure the name, So
right.
If you're under 60 and I tell you, meet me at the Lambs, right? You'll
right.
Google the Lambs Club and you'll wind up at 44th Street.
Got it. Okay.
So I think officially we're now called the Lambs Inc. We're working to figure out how to get back the Lambs Club, Okay.
Yep.
So if you ask me where we are, I say 3 West 51st Street or the 3 West Club. And we're on the 5th floor.
I mean, it's amazing that it even continues to exist all these years later. This type of club, Friars are, it's kind of gone kaput. And
the Friars is gone.
Yeah. So, by the way,
the players will always be there as long as the Booth estate or whomever owns that. That was Edwin Booth's home, and so the players will always be there. At Gramercy Park. So that's where you confused it. But
yes,
I understand the confusion. Trust me.
Got it. So there are, by the way, if anyone has questions or comments, please put them in the chat. We do have, let's see, Pennsylvania Pinchington is saying William Brown is a devoted Honeymooners and Gleason fan, must be having a hard day. Yes, I'm sure Pennsylvania. William Brown is one of our regulars. Also, Tristan Jan says, hi, Bob. Great to see you in this tribute. Now spread out.
A little Three Stooges reference.
Spread
out. Yeah.
Tristan also says, first time I ever saw Mr. Greenberg was in a television commercial for Three Stooges VHS tapes. Wow.
Oh, yes. Yeah, for Three Stooges, right, VHS. Yeah, I did the Columbia, I guess, Columbia House or whatever. So, yeah, I did a lot of back in the day. Three Stooges VCR game commercial. VCR, you don't hear that word anymore. VCR game commercial. I did that back in 86 or 87. That was my first gig. Yeah.
And I presume this was as Curly.
Certainly.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes.
Bob, do you do a Joe DeRita impression? Not to put you on the spot.
Only his weight. I just put on his weight. No.
That would be challenging.
I'm Joe DeRita when he was anyway. No, I don't do a Joe DeRita. Although I did like he used to go, hey, buddy boy. That's all I can do. That's about it. Hey, buddy boy. I actually like Joe DeRita. Me and Michael Townsend Wright, we both love Joe DeRita.
Well, now we know who the two guys are, right?
That's
right
it.
There.
If you have any Joe DeRita questions, come to us. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the episode, Bob, so we can watch. And I haven't seen this in a while, but I do remember Joyce talking about the club, and yeah. So let's run it. And there's also a comedian on here, an old Catskills comedian that you might get a kick out of. That's not it. Sorry about that. Let's try this one. There we go.
It's the award-winning Beyond Vaudeville program with your host, Frank Hope, and your co-host, David Green, and very special guest star, Joyce Randolph, and funny man, Jackie Jason, Exit, and Samson St. Clair as Joan Rivers, and lots of surprises. Phone to us, 675-RAT.
Okay. Thank you very much, David, for giving us who's on the show tonight. And once again, welcome to the Beyond Vaudeville program. Okay. And as you can see, we have some very special, very special guest stars tonight and surprises, so stick around. David, since he was doing that iced tea thing with the sugar on the show, it feels that he should keep doing this sugar thing to irritate me, and I'm not going to let him get to me by doing it. So if he wants to keep doing it, then that's his problem, and I'm just going to ignore it and continue on with the show. We want to talk about some special things that have been going on lately.
Mr. Green?
Okay, well, now it's going to be oatmeal instead of iced tea. Well, it's not any, you're still not getting me, David. we were mentioned in Cracked Magazine for our live stage show that we did with. We had Adam Batman West at our stage show, and that was in the. That's not funny, David. Okay. Also, we had another guest, Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family, was at another one of our stage shows, and we have a picture of him there. Also, a good new book I found recently that I recommend, and it may be out of print, but it's Richard Dawson and Family Feud, and it's a whole book about the Family Feud program that's not on anymore, but it was a good show when it was on. Okay, also Tiddlywinks recently got a Tiddlywinks game, and I don't know if they're making these anymore either, but I like Tiddlywinks very much, and you probably will too if you play them and remember what it was like. Okay. Also, the Sunny Cocoa Puffs backpack was this you can find.
By the way, this is a legit thing that David would put this much sugar into, and he really will eat that. I know you make a lot of posts, Bob, about your enjoying cakes and cookies. Could you imagine having that amount of sugar in one sitting?
That's my life. Yeah, I can imagine, and he's enjoying himself. I can tell that he's got joie de vivre.
Well, so far.
And it's the guy with the cereal. With the Cocoa Puffs. Also, there's the Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling backpack that you can hold all your things in when you go out. And also, there's so many things today. The Rabbi Ben dashboard that you hang from your window. It's a rabbi instead of one of those green tree things. Okay. Well, David, isn't that great now? You're eating all that sugar. Well, I hope you enjoy it, and that's all going to catch up with you someday. Okay. Well, I guess we should bring out our first guest, who's a very special one. I'm sure you'll remember from the Honeymooners, and the other is her husband. Who is very prominent in the theater world. And please welcome Joyce Randolph and Mr. Dick Charles, please, to the Beyond Vaudeville program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank, nice to see you.
There's your mic there.
My little clip on. Now let's see. I don't have a collar, but I guess this will work.
By the way, we'll talk more about Joyce, but she was the sweetest woman, yes?
She was, and was very funny because when I don't think I'm spilling tea here, but I think she had some problem with Mr. Gleason. Not sure what it was.
Okay.
But I remember asking her about that photo, the famous photo of them all hanging out of the window of the bus.
Right, it's on the covers of the books, and yeah.
So I asked her about that day and where it was shot, and it was shot outside of his hotel the Park Sheridan, where he stayed, right? Mm-hmm. She remembered they were all in costume. The bus was there. I worked with the bus, by the way. I did a gig for, I guess it was Kings County College, and you can rent the bus with a bus driver because it's very hard to steer it.
Oh, the actual bus, yeah.
Well, I'll spill some more tea. The bus in the picture got run down, and it's in the museum. I think it's actually called the Jackie Gleason Depot. There's like a little museum in Bushwick.
Okay.
And the actual bus does not run. They took the numbers, the letters of that bus, and whatever the sister bus or brother bus that came after, I guess, that's now the official Jackie Gleason bust. So it's basically the same bus, but the actual one in the picture is, it doesn't run, but they've got it secure somewhere and it's safe. Okay, so no more harm will come to the Jackie Gleason, the real bus. But I worked with the bus. I bet you the bus got more money than I did. I don't know, but I was dressed up as Ralph Cram did and doing shtick. So anyway, I asked her about this, and she said that she remembered. It's funny how people, how you remember things. I can't remember something this morning, but she remembered how cold it was and that they were all in costume. And of course, Gleason was always late. I guess he was the original multitasker, so this was not the first thing on his schedule. And they're all waiting for him. And it's evident from some pictures I've seen that he was barely dressed. There's one photo of him with Audrey Meadows standing in front of the bus, and you can see he's either got a nightshirt on under the top of the uniform, or maybe it's just shirt tails. There are other shots inside the bus where he's wearing pants. So obviously someone got his pants. But I tell you, because I look for these things. There are photos of Gleason and Carney on set. There's actually only like one that they show that you see a lot in the books and stuff that we grew up with. And you see Gleason has a cigarette. He's holding the cigarette like this because he was smoking while they were rehearsing or whatever. So, or there's a famous one, the whole cast, and Gleason's going like this. If you look, he's got a plaid shirt on, and he's got like some sort of floral, expensive tie on under the bus driver's outfit. So he didn't even bother to take off, his shirt or tie. He just put on the jacket. You know the one I'm talking about? Next time you see his. And there's other cases of him and Audrey Meadows where she's dressed up and he's kind of half in the out. They got the hat on him. Where was he? What was he doing? That it was like, I'll give you 5 minutes. Right? Did you feel that? I'll give you 5. All right, I'll put the cigarette down. Take the picture. So anyway, but there are shots inside the bus, and I assume it was taken the same day where he is in a full costume. You see him with the pants and everything.
But but something happened at that photo shoot that Joyce Randolph was upset with him about?
No, nothing. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse it. No, she, no, it was just like little details, like they waited so long for him.
Okay.
I gather he wasn't ready. You know what I'm saying? And, but there were, I just, you just felt, especially the way she called him Mr. Gleason.
Right.
There was some problem, and I never asked her, like, why didn't you go to Florida, or why didn't, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. You know what I mean? So I know he called her the actress. I think she mentioned that to me. Gleason saw her in something and hired her to play,
yes.
And I think Elaine Stritch played it first.
Yeah, she does reference that. So we'll, I'll hit play.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
That will suffice, yes.
This is a very special day for us because we've had some famous people on the show, but you are very famous to us. We grew up watching the Honeymooners, and we saw just recently that they named a Ralph Cramden bus terminal in New York, right here.
In Brooklyn.
And you were there, and
the Jackie Gleason bus depot.
Jackie Gleason bus terminal. Okay, and. Now, a lot of people know you from the Honeymooners, but there were other things in your career that you did as an actress. You did theater and
lots of early television.
Early television. When did you start?
Oh my, 1947.
47. So
that was early television.
So that was back when they just had the black and white and
yes.
Milton Berle and all those things. And now you two both met in the early days of TV, right?
Yes.
Yes, we met, as a matter of fact, at the Cordial Bar and Grill and Bar.
Which was next door to the studio where we did the Jackie Gleason show, which is now called the Ed Sullivan Theater at Broadway and 52nd or 53rd. But it was just called, Studio 52 in those days. But now it's the Ed Sullivan Theater. And the Cordial Bar and Grill was right next door. And they would send food and drink, perhaps, to Mr. Gleason. And some of us would go there at 9 o'clock on Saturday night.
Now,
get some food.
there are a lot of stories that Mr. Gleason was quite a drinker. He could really hold his own at parties with others. And
Yes, at parties, he certainly did not drink on the show.
now,
She was very deferential and respectful toward him. It
Yes.
seems, at least
Yeah.
publicly. Yeah, and
I met Art Carney once. He had
okay.
a bunch of wraparounds for Nick at Night. And he had said that it was a few of us there. So he didn't say this specifically to me, but it was like a couple of us that people thought that Gleason before the show would go into his dressing room and drink. He claimed that Gleason would go in and try to memorize his lines before the show. You know, Gleason wouldn't be there for the whole week. I'm talking about the classic 39 episodes that they shot for syndicated television. I'm not sure about the variety show if this applies. But he was never there for the rehearsals, the dress rehearsals, you know. Everybody else was. I think Barney Martin used to stand in for him. They used to have people stand in for him until the day of the show, and then he would do kind of a walkthrough dress rehearsal. You know, they would tell him, you do this here, you do that here. And then he would go off, and a lot of people thought he went and drank in his dressing room. But Carney said, no, that's exactly when he would try to memorize his lines before the show. So he hadn't said the lines. He hadn't said the lines out loud to anybody. Of course, he was the producer of the show, and I assume he was involved with the writers, so he was aware of what happens, where things are. But I don't think he would actually rehearse. I mean, in public, you know. And so he said that Gleason would not be drinking, but for some reason there was a rumor that he would be drinking before the show.
Yeah. Now Dick Charles, who we're watching here, Joyce's husband, they were married for many years, and he was a very nice guy. But we picked them up and drove them up to the studio from Sardi's, and I think Dick had a cocktail or two before he got. Because you might have noticed he mentioned how they met at the Bar and Grill and Bar.
Yes.
Emphasis on bar.
The Lambs traditionally was a drinking club.
Yeah.
And the Sons of the Desert, which is the International Laurel and Hardy Appreciation Society, was kind of formed at the Lambs. And even in our bylaws, there's always, we stop to have another drink or another toast stand, and something then we're supposed to do something, toast Ollie. You know what I mean? Or babe, we say
part
babe.
of that culture.
Yeah. So there was this whole drinking at the pub mentality, I think, to all these clubs, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. You know? All right, let's go back.
In order to prepare to be Art Carney's wife, how did you do that? Did you work out how you would work with him, or?
It just sort of happened and evolved slowly. It didn't have to work anything out. It just, we started back on Dumont, Channel 5.
Right.
Before we were at CBS. So this was way back in 1950 that we started. And I had done a serious sketch with Jackie. And he, then when the part of Trixie was written in for Art Carney to have a wife, Jackie Gleason said to the casting man, just get me that serious actress. He couldn't think of my name because he didn't know me that well. We hardly ever rehearse or anything with him because he doesn't like to rehearse. But he asked the casting man to get him that serious actress for Trixie. And so I just started, just fell into it that way and continued playing it for
So you were
years.
like a straight woman to...
Yes.
Oh.
Didn't have too many comedy lines.
Now, did you ever rehearse it at home? Did you wear a vest and do those funny moves? Or?
I wore a vest, but three-piece suits. You know?
And,
very formal and very nice.
Now, I mentioned that you're very prominent in the theater. You're with an organization, the Lambs.
The Lambs Club, which was founded in 1880 by Mr. Montague, who was in this country from doing a show from England. And in the old days in England, why actors weren't too well thought of, Mm-hmm. And so a group of people used to get around, go around to Mary Lamb's place.
Charles and Mary Lamb.
Charles and Mary Lamb's place, because they were artistic and they liked theatrical people. And when Montague met a few of his friends here at Delmonico's in New York, he said it sure would be nice to have a place like the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started the club, and it's survived for 106 years.
And there are people in theater and
Yes,
and
theater
TV
and theater, directors, producers, actors, singers, dancers.
so maybe Dave and I can join sometime.
Well, I certainly would love to have you.
But he probably wouldn't be able to do that, eating all that sugar, David.
No,
Well, he may not live long enough to
Probably wouldn't.
join.
I don't think that would go over too well in polite company. Now, you both also are regulars at Sardi's. You mentioned that you've been there, going there for several years, and
35 years I've had my charge account there.
and if people in New York go to Sardi's, they'll see you right up on the wall there.
Yes, up over the bar are the 4 caricatures.
Not
of,
you, but the
No, the caricatures that were drawn up of Jackie and Audrey and Art and me. I'm on the right end.
Mm-hmm. And so, do both of you are you still involved in TV at all, or charities? What type of work do you do now? And
Well, we have our clubs. Besides just being the shepherd of the lambs, we're also members of the Players Club down in Gramercy Park, and you belong to what, the Advertising Club and the Dutch Street Club, and he has his good job, his position, and we're always busy. I don't know what we're doing, but we're all.
Must have been a fun life. I mean, for decades, they were just going to all these clubs.
Yeah, it's funny. The first time I think I ever saw Joyce, though, was interesting. I went to the Museum of Radio and Television, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe she used to hang out downstairs. She would sit with and you couldn't help but notice her. I'm not sure if she was there for some reason, but I saw her once and mentioned to somebody, and someone said, "Oh, she's always there." But this may have been after her husband died. I'm not certain about that.
Yeah, I ran into her years later after this taping at a Nick at Night TV Land thing, and she was just so nice. She was like talking about, "Oh, I had a nice time doing your show," and it was a weird environment for her being in this studio, but she was just a really pleasant, nice lady.
Yeah, no, she was always very nice. The first time I actually really spoke to her was before I was a lamb. It might have been before I was a friar as well. There was an event at the Guild Hall, which is the Episcopalian Actors Guild. There's the little church around the corner. Do you know the history of the little church around the corner? It's still
right.
There.
Yeah.
There was an actor who died. They wanted to do a funeral around at the big church around on Fifth Avenue. It wasn't St. Pat's. It wasn't St. Pat's. And I don't know if it was a priest or a minister. Maybe it was Lutheran, Episcopalian. I'm not certain. I know the little church around the corner is Episcopalian. I believe. Yeah, must be, right? But they said, "Oh, no, we don't do actors, maybe try the little church around the corner." That became a very popular place. All the thespians around the world supported it, and it's still around. And that big church on Fifth Avenue, long gone. So at that Guild Hall, there's a special, place that we have. There was an event in her honor. It was sponsored by a magazine, which I can't remember the name, but one of those many fanzines about old movies and TV. And I met her there, and I think I had just started doing a show called The Honeymooners, which was a spoof of The Honeymooners. It was a New York Dinner Theater. I still do it periodically, every so often. Very, very slightly hidden. I guess you could say it was a parody. Ralph Camden, Ed Morton. You know who we're talking about? I don't know. I'm confused. Anyway, CBS. I hope you're not listening, or Jackie Gleason Enterprises. But anyway, parodies. Ask Mr. Alan Sherman. Where are you, Mr. Sherman? You can do parodies. So So anyway, I think I just started and I told her about it, and she was very receptive. And then when I became a lamb, she was a fixture. It's wonderful for me to see her here like this because I guess I became more friends with her towards the latter half, her 90s.
Yeah.
Not the 90s, her 90s. So there was a little, difference. And because of her health and whatever. Yeah. It's great to hear her call Gleason Jackie. She always said Mr. Gleason, and I always felt there may have been a problem because of that. You know what I mean?
Well, let's see what else she's got to say.
Always busy.
Well, we're glad you found the time to come on here and talk with us a bit and join us. We're supposed to have on a comedian that we'd like to bring out and have him do his routine. Anyone from the Catskills or who has been to the Catskills will recognize Jackie Jason Exit, and he's going to do some of his routine for us right now. Please, Jackie Jason Exit.
Hello, it's a pleasure. Frank Hope, I thought for me there would be no hope altogether, I'll be honest with you. Because this morning, would you believe me, before I came down here, I was mugged on 79th Street. The guy says, give me your money. I says, I already gave it on 14th Street. It's ridiculous with the crime that's going on in New York City. I'll be honest, I live in the Bronx. I live in the Bronx in a very quiet neighborhood. At night, you can hear screams. It's the police calling for help. When I first moved into the neighborhood, I asked my landlady, I says, where's the nearest subway? She says, I don't know. Nobody ever made it yet. So what do you think I did? I bought myself a police dog for protection. It's a police dog. He wears a badge. He thought that I was a bone. He tried to bury me. It's a police dog. He's afraid of the dark. It's a German dog. That's right. It's a German dog. He found out I was Jewish. He goes in the closet and he wets my shoes. It's a German dog. I showed him a picture of Hitler. He raised his front paw. I bet nobody can guess how old I am. Looking at me, you could never realize how old I am. You know that I was a busboy at the Last Supper. I go way back. And I was there. That's right. My grandfather attended the Last Supper. You couldn't see his picture because he wasn't sitting at the head table. He was sitting at table 4, and he won the centerpiece, and I was there. I had another grandfather, Shlomo Exit. He was half Baptist and half Jewish. He was circumcised underwater, and I was there. Cain, whose wife divorced him because he wasn't able, and I was there too. You wouldn't believe this. You know, most comedians, when they go on, after a show, and you want to talk to them, they can't open up their mouth because they're very self-conscious about themselves. I'll tell you the truth, I'm so self-conscious. If somebody would walk over to me after a show, I can't open up my mouth. Like last week, I passed a football game, and I saw the players going to a huddle, so I thought they were talking about me. So I went to the psychiatrist. I says, what is it? He said, it's $100 a visit. I says, I'll tell you the truth, for $100, I don't visit, I move in. Then he takes out an ink blot. He says, what do you see? I said, I see that you need a new fountain pen. I figured for $100, I'll drive him crazy. He says to me, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? I says, I want $99 change. He says, I think I know your problem. You hate your sister. I says, I'll be honest with you, I haven't got a sister. He says, you're not helping me if you don't cooperate. That's my best joke.
Okay, Jackie.
Did you know this guy, Bob?
Is he for real? I mean, I'll ask Bertie Burns. What was his name again? I got to write this name down.
Jackie Jason Exit. So
I don't think he's for real. Let me write that down. I gotta tell. Bertie Burns is a real Catskills comic. Not even Jackie. Let me get that down. Jackie
Jason Exit. So he was kind of, borrowing from Jackie Mason's name and his cadence, obviously. And then at one point, he was kind of doing Red Button's routine in the middle there.
I don't. Yeah, no. He seemed almost like a parody. It's like when I would do a parody of a Catskill comic. You almost see, but it was immensely charming, and of course your sidekick's reaction always cracks me up. So I have to say that I loved watching Joyce being very professionally responsive,
yes,
smiling, And she had good gams. I didn't mention that. You can see she had good gams. So
Absolutely.
it's a wonderful. Will you be archiving this episode?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I'd like to share it with the Lambs. They would get a big kick out of seeing her.
Oh yeah.
Especially with her husband.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's continue. Let's see what Jackie Jason Exit has to say.
I'm afraid to hear.
Have a seat over there. Maybe, Dave, you could hand him the microphone over there next to you. The mic. There you go.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Now, Jackie, last summer I went up to the Raleigh Hotel, and that's one of the old greats up there in the
Certainly
Catskills,
is,
right?
right.
And now you've been playing the Catskills for several years?
I've been playing the Catskills for quite a number of years, but at the present time, I'm not working at Catskills. I am working at Catskills, but not in shows. I pick up dead animals on a thruway.
Now, there have been some changes in the Catskills over the years, right? You've noticed?
Oh, there's a lot of changes. There's young comedians coming up, and there's no question about those changes. There isn't too many places you can play today. That's the whole trouble.
Yeah.
You can count them on your fingers how many places there is in the Catskill Mountains.
Well, I think they have. There are people don't know how to laugh anymore. You have a guy like Dave who just sits there, and I think if you had somebody like him in your audience, you wouldn't. You'd probably want to quit the whole business. All right, just relax, David.
But I'll be honest, last month I worked at the Catskill Mountains with Tom Jones.
Right.
And he opened up the show and he sang, "For all the girls I loved before,
Right.
for those who come knocking at my door, please be a good sport, send me the medical report from all those girls I loved before."
Oh, that's a little blue for we like to usually keep the show, but okay, but all right, because it was subtle enough, I think that we can say
That was Tom Jones. He sang the song that I was with him at the time.
Well, now a lot of the comedians today they always feel they have to work dirty, and do you think
No,
that
absolutely
that's,
not. There's nothing to be funny to be dirty. The idea is to be clean and character-wise and have talent that you don't have to do no dirty jokes. I don't believe in dirty jokes, I'll be honest. I don't believe in sex. I don't believe in it. That's why I look like this.
Okay.
Mr. Gleason always wanted a very clean show. He said
He
that-
wanted
yes,
clean,
and it was.
and he stuck with that all the way through, even
Yes.
when he did his movies later in life, and he always maintained.
Well, perhaps he didn't have as much control over the movies, but he had complete control over our show. He ran the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And now, have you two ever attempted a comedy or stand-up?
No.
No, we have enough laughs at home.
Okay. And have you been up to the Catskills at all over the years to see any of the?
No, honestly, I haven't.
No, we have.
It's really something, because even though it has changed, there still are comedians that tell the types of jokes that Jackie tells. And,
Absolutely, but most of them are really blue jokes. It's not really in good taste, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
They seem to get a lot of laughs with it. This generation, they go for this younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't see it, really. That's why I admire Jackie Mason. When he does a show, he does nothing blue in his material. And he's a star on Broadway.
And he's a friend of yours, too.
I happen to be a standby, especially when it has a couple of girls, I stand by.
Okay.
The closest I ever got to the Adirondacks, when I first came to New York in 1952, I went up to Moodus, Connecticut, to Banner Lodge, and did The Moon is Blue. And that was my extent in the Borscht Belt, as you would.
Right.
All right. Well, let's.
It's interesting. They never went to the Catskills once. I actually had gone to the Raleigh for a Robert Goulet weekend. It was one of the last gasps of the Raleigh. Had you ever gotten to any of those hotels?
I've always called it the Raleigh, so it's interesting to hear the Raleigh. I don't know. We always called it the Raleigh. I performed at the Raleigh.
Oh, wow.
3 times.
Wow.
All under, when I performed at the Raleigh in recent years, this is all pre-COVID, right?
Yep.
It was owned by, probably still is, the Hasidim.
Yep.
And I would be hired for what's called the modern Orthodox. During Passover week, this is a big week, Jews who don't want to clean their home, make it bread-free, if you know the Passover holiday,
Right.
and change everything from Pesach goods, whatever. They'll go off to the Raleigh or to one of these Catskill places where they're fed and, they don't have to worry about anything and they have entertainment.
Yep.
And I was hired the Raleigh, the Hasidim seemed to take over certain rooms, but the rest were like what they call modern Orthodox. Like, in other words, I guess close to my kind of Jew, or,
right.
Maybe you might see, the men wearing baseball caps instead of yarmulkes. You might see a little more religious than me, but the women and the men sit together, they dance together. There's no problems. You might see a wig, but it's not as religious as the ultra Orthodox. It's what they call modern Orthodox,
right.
Mostly young people. So I performed there 3 times specifically for that crowd, although on occasion you might see a few Hasidim in the back, whatever. But so I did. I performed there, and it was wonderful. I recall going there as a kid, and the lobby in the front, it's all the same as I remember. And on one occasion when I stayed over, I went to an area where I went down to where I recall that we played ping pong, my father and I, and we're talking about 1965, I guess.
Right.
And there's a pool, but everything was not. It was all like, it was like Miss Havisham's, a wedding, what I mean, with the cobwebs and the cake, from Great Expectations,
Right.
So
right.
it hadn't been touched in years, so it was all ruins, and the pool was caved in, the indoor pool, etc. And then I kept walking and I found some rooms. And then there was a beautiful portrait of Kennedy, John Kennedy, our president, it said, so it was, I felt like I was in The Shining or something, and eventually I said, I better get back to the other side of the hotel.
Yeah, it was a long, slow decline up there. And, but I mean, the Hasidim definitely, had an appreciation for the comics on the Chabad telethon. Jan Murray and all those.
Oh yeah, I did one of those too. Yeah, I did one of those too.
Ah.
So yeah.
In chat, we're hearing Sarah Rusi saying hi. Pennsylvania Pinchington says, "I'm not certain, but Jackie Jason Exit appears to be wearing a hairpiece."
No, that's his real hair. I'm certain of it.
Let's just make that clear right now.
It's definitely his real hair.
Yeah. Mose Wildful says David's in a sugar coma. And Bailey George says, funny you mentioned Gleason being clean, considering his character in Smokey and the Bandit as Buford T. Justice. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think at that point, I think Gleason would reluctantly do these things like Nothing in Common. I like that movie. It's with Tom Hanks, but you almost feel like he's a little either uncomfortable or he just is going to get the paycheck. You know what I'm saying? So he'll say all right, I'll do that. That kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, I don't think he was. But I do believe there was a point, especially around the time of All in the Family, which he was offered All in the Family and turned it down. He felt saying those words was not appropriate. So he was definitely from the old school. Correct.
Interesting.
It's interesting to hear her call him Mr. Gleason when she was discussing that. Did you notice that?
It applied in that case.
Gleason comes back as to the show, and that was the Mr. Gleason I used to hear her talk about.
All right, here we go.
We now have another person who is talking about comedy, Samson St. Clair, and he's starring in Shiva, and it's a play about Joan Rivers in recent times, and it's playing Thursdays and Sundays at the St. Francis Horn Community Center in Regal Park, and he's going to perform a scene from that now, please.
The author claims I had dinner with him and made statements to the effect and I wished my husband were dead. This is impossible. On the night that the article claimed I had dinner with the author in Los Angeles, I was not in Los Angeles. I was not even in the United States. I was in an emergency room in a hospital in Dublin with my late husband, Edgar Rosenberg, because he had been taken ill during the night. The author also claims that he came to my house as an invited guest during my husband's Shiva, which is the Jewish period of mourning after a funeral, and states that I went around screaming obscenities about my late husband, that I boasted about Gatorade, and that I ordered my publicist to use this tragic event for my own personal career advantages. This is a total pack of evil, vicious, sick lies. I do not understand the total lack of humanity on the part of Gentlemen's Quarterly to publish such an attack on my family, or what is left of my family. Each day for my daughter and me is a struggle to get through. This is a vicious article which has ripped open an emotional wound which has just barely started to heal. We are still in a state of deep grief over the totally unexpected loss of my late husband. This horror that this article has brought both to my daughter, who is so young and vulnerable, and to me, is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this, Bob, but this was an actual response that Joan Rivers had to one of the tabloid articles that was written, and this entire speech was on a current affair.
Oh my goodness!
As is, yeah. And but the guy reading this is John Walsh, who was a really talented, funny guy who was typically on the show as our dancing monkey, Joey.
Well, I think I'm friends with him, John Walsh. Yeah.
Well, he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately.
Oh, I guess I'm not friends with him.
Yeah, although you might still be. You know, people never go away in Facebook land.
No. I guess maybe. Well, I gotta maybe unfriend him now. You know, when they pass away, I go. By the way, how long are we going till? I'm supposed to be at a birthday party at 5:00, and I don't.
Okay. I think.
Yeah, what's your schedule? How much more are we going for? Let's put it that way.
I think if we can just get through the end of this, which we're almost at, I believe.
Also, let's go through it, and then yeah.
Okay.
So just say we'll be there at 5:30.
5:15.
Oh, that yeah. Okay.
No, to tell you the truth, when the producers told me that they were going to have somebody on doing a Joan Rivers play, I expected a guy with the wig and the with all the hair.
Well, yeah, we're trying to do something a little different.
You're doing something different now.
Yeah, Joan has many facets, of course, to her character, her personality.
The scene that we just saw now, that was from...
This is taken from a press conference that Joan held after an article in Gentlemen's Quarterly appeared, during which a pseudonymous author named Bert Hacker claimed to have had dinner with Joan and published what we all believe to be a pack of evil, vicious, and sick lies.
Mm-hmm. So, and the play, so that's in the play, and...
The play, Shiva, yes. A Time
and
for
you
Healing.
don't do... So do you do routines from Joan Rivers as well? Or?
There are moments from happier times, yes, and it's told primarily in flashbacks. It begins with the news of Edgar's death and then goes up to the point where this article appeared. And it details some of the happier moments and some of the sad times.
One time, David and I were watching the show that Joan Rivers was hosting, The Late Show, and Joan Rivers is very... funny because Dave even laughed at some of the jokes, which you usually don't see Dave doing.
Excuse me, this man laughed?
That David, and you probably don't even remember, or you don't want to remember. Okay, well, you're sick. All right, well maybe we'll all go and see that play, Samson St. Clair. That's at the St. Francis Horn Community Center in Rego Park.
That's in Rego Park, yes.
Okay.
And if they want any information about the show, they can call Beyond Vaudeville.
Okay, yeah, you can call us at 675-RASH, and we'll give you information on where that is appearing. Jackie, did you ever work with Joan Rivers or any?
No, as a matter of fact, I did have a concession next door where Joan Rivers used to go in quite often. Concession, the men's room off Broadway.
Oh.
And,
Is that a club?
Quite often. It was a club. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I guess we still have some time left, and I think that we owe it to the Honeymooners fans to find out what the Honeymooners are up to. The Art Carney and anything new on those fronts, or?
Well, last March, most of us were summoned to Hollywood to be part of a celebrity wake for Jackie Gleason, which is part of a 2-hour CBS television show, which I expect will go on the air next fall.
Okay.
And it was nice to see Art and Audrey and Mrs. Gleason, who is Marilyn Taylor Gleason, and her sister June Taylor, who did all the dances on the show. June was the choreographer. And there were many people. George Petrie, whom we often call the fifth honeymooner because he played so many parts. He was on every week playing a different sort of part. He was there with his wife, who'd been on the show too, and Eddie Hanley, who had done many parts with us. And it was wonderful to see so many old friends.
And now there's a whole new generation seeing the Honeymooners for the first time, seeing the shows that have been running for years, but also a whole bunch of new shows or new old shows are
The
out.
lost episodes.
And those are showing regularly all around the country.
All around the country. In the New York area, Sunday nights on Channel 11.
We had, when we had Al Lewis on, he mentioned that the Munsters has been in reruns ever since the show went off the air, and it's on all over the world. And I guess the Honeymooners too is just as popular all over.
Well, not really. You see, the Munsters had years and years and years of shows on film. We had only the 39 half hours that were considered film, even though they were not. They were the Dumont Electronicam system, which was a forerunner of tape. But that was all that could be shown for years and years, and so we didn't have a multitude of them the way they did, the Munsters.
I was chatting with a fellow the other night in Sardi's and from Australia, and he said, "Oh, certainly I remember the Honeymooners. We have a Honeymooners in Australia." So
I was glad to hear that. But,
And then there was the song, the Honeymooners song, that came out a little while ago, and the show just it just won't go away. People really love that show.
I'm glad it won't go away.
And but we're very, very, very happy to have you on here.
Thank you.
Mr. Charles, anything new for the Lambs coming up that?
well, nothing. I guess the next activity that we have, we're taking a group out to entertain the people at the Actors Fund Home in Englewood, New Jersey.
We do a picnic party there and show on a Saturday afternoon every summer.
And these are retired actresses,
Yes.
actors, and
Retired to the Actors Fund Home in Englewood, New Jersey.
It's a very important charity, Frank.
Yes, it is a very important charity, particularly, they handle many things, and they have many demands on the Actors Fund now, particularly since, unhappily, with AIDS.
And we just opened this past year a nursing home adjacent to the retirement home.
It's beautiful, too, really beautiful.
When people get infirm, they can move next door, and they will not leave their friends.
well, I don't think you two are ever going to end up there because you're keeping really active, and we hope to hear and see a lot more of you in the future. And Jackie, Jason, any places we can see you, or what's coming up down the road?
Well, down the road, I expect to be at the International Atlantic City.
Okay.
Very happy. Someone give me a booking, and this is the greatest thrill of my life. I'm a guy that never made it. Maybe this will be my opportunity that I'll make it. As a matter of fact, I call myself Exit because I want to see my name in lights. That's the reason I see Exit.
Okay. And
May I interrupt? The
Please.
AGVA, I was booked many times to do that home in Englewood, by the way. It's a wonderful, beautiful place. I was there several times.
Okay, and Samson, we know where we can see your show.
Yes, it's the St. Francis Horn Recreation Center in Rego Park, Queens.
Okay, and now we're going to have a closing song, and it's Jim Neighbors, and he's doing Born Free, and...
All right, I'm going to kill that. So, Bob, we know where that's going. Have you been out to the old actors' home in Englewood?
Yes, when during being a friar and whatnot, I was part of the. I was sent out by the Sunshine Committee, and we would do shows at the at the old actors' home. It's very heartwarming because you'd run into people that you may have worked with at one point, and sweet, and their families. You give them a little break. It's a lovely facility. As a matter of fact, if I get a little unruly, my wife threatens to send me to the old actors' home. It's like my little through line. When I get to
I think you were friendly with Larry Storch toward the end.
Yes.
Was he out at that home?
No, never.
Okay.
He was always at his wonderful apartment on Riverside Drive. He was always there. He had a wonderful apartment that he had with his wife, and they had like the whole floor kind of thing, and old school New York apartment you might see in the movie of the Odd Couple or Rosemary's Baby or what. Those apartments you see in movies. You go, oh my God, they lived like that in New York with all those rooms, and kind of.
Now he also lived to be 99 or 100 or.
Yeah, he made it to 99 and a half.
Wow. And he would like stand on his head every day, like into his 90s, right?
Yeah, he stood on his head, and he would also take a walk early in the morning and go to the park, I guess Riverside Park, whatever.
Yeah.
And he'd play his saxophone. As a matter of fact, I believe my buddy Drew Friedman had posted something that he had passed. This is prematurely, of course. There was something in the feed with something, maybe his brother, or something. There was something that, and his handler, who I was friendly with, I called him and I says, "How's Larry doing? How's that?" I didn't want to, and he go, "What, Bob? What you hear?" And I said, "Well, Matt, I saw something. Can you give Larry a call, see how he's doing?" And then he got back to me, and as a matter of fact, Larry was fine. And then a friend of mine, comedian Mike Fine, was saying he heard this on was driving. He heard this on his radio or whatever.
Yeah.
That Larry had passed, or he saw something that was posted, and then he saw Larry Storch crossing the street heading to and he said he had to pull over, like, oh my God, was that a ghost or whatever? And,
wow.
So he called me, and I said, no, Larry's fine.
So so I know you knew Larry Storch, who was on our show. Also, you knew Professor Erwin Corey in late.
Oh, very, very well. I used to hang with him, and he made it to 102 and a half.
Wow.
And I used to sit in the kitchen. He liked it. It was very hot in that kitchen, I got to tell you. And we had many long talks. And one thing that's kind of bittersweet, I forget how old he was. And, we would talk to each other in that friar's way. And he was over 100. And I said, so, Erwin, when do you think you want to kick it in? You're over 100. When do you think it's time to go? How are you going to hang out another? We had a big party for him at the friars. And I had some Michigas at the Actors Temple for him for his birthday. And he thought about it, and he said, well, when I can't get into the dining room to have dinner, or I can't get into the bathroom, walk to the bathroom by myself, or go in the kitchen for a bite, then it's time. And he had like a walker, and he had a thing on wheels. And when he was about 102 and a half, something happened. He went to the hospital. He came back, and he was like bedridden. The bed was in the living room. He was there. And he had a nurse, and he had trouble speaking. And I came over, and he looked at me, and he was like, now it's time, And it was a very short time because he couldn't make it to the bathroom by himself. He couldn't. I always thought that was kind of sweet in a way, you know what I mean? When he couldn't go to the bathroom or get some tea. How basic is that?
He was a great guy. I'm just running through my head of people that I know you knew, and another one of our guests. I know you have to get to this party. So, but just tell me,
How long do you go for? Is this a 2-hour show? What is this?
with somebody like you, Bob, we got to keep talking.
All right, we're okay. We're okay. Yeah, I'll go to 5:15. How does that look? All right.
All right, that's good. That's good. Tell me about Joe Franklin.
Oh, Joe was a sweetie, and I believe you were going to play a record like Joe Franklin used to do that. It was a very uncomfortable thing where somebody would be sitting there, and they'd play his song, and you'd hear it, and nobody knew what to do. You'd sort of like, do we talk here? Do you do? Sometimes the singer would lip sync, which always looked awkward as well. I did his show twice, as a matter of fact, when it was in Jersey, not in New York. But I hung with Joe a lot, and I was his MC at the Joe Franklin Comedy Club. He had a few of those. Mine was at TGI Fridays. They were always the back room of like a Beefsteak Charlie or something like that. And I loved him. He was a real sweetie. And I used to go visit him. He was on 43rd Street, 300 West 43rd Street, and I lived near there. And I'd come from an audition or something. And I go up to the third floor to his office. Oh, his office is famous. It's Fibber and McGee and Molly's closet that you'd walk into, or the skate room at the Marx Brothers Night at the Opera. The
Collier Brothers.
Eddie Cantor was probably buried under some of those papers. Whatever. So, and he had his office just like his TV show. He. You were there, right? You've been there.
Yeah.
Remember was a raised desk, so like a stage, and he had his desk, and he had like a black phone and a red phone. Oh, he used to have me answer the phone for him. Bobby, answer the phone, and it was always somebody who wanted to speak to him or see him, and I go, Joe, so and so on the phone. Tell him I'll speak tomorrow, Wednesday, 3:15. I'll have some good news for him, whatever, and. I would annoy some of these people because I'd answer this curly or whatever. But so he would have like a talk show in his office because as you walked in, there was like all the stuff piled up, 1-inch tapes, 2-inch tapes, 16 millimeter film, whatever, piled up, and you'd round the corner and there'd be a couch. And on the couch would be like a guy who looked like a pimp, somebody who collects spit. Maybe a whore had a better day, whatever, they were all sitting there, and he'd go, Bobby, do a little Jackie Gleason, do a little Jackie Gleason. Fabio over here, Fabio.
What became of all his stuff? Was it any idea? It wound up in storage.
I wish I would have went over and was aggressive and just stuff. I was politely trying to find out. There was one item I had in mind to get. His son, I did see his son in the office afterwards.
Yeah.
Brad, I believe was his name. And he did give me some stuff while I was there. The one thing I wanted, he felt had some value, so he didn't want to give it to me. But he gave me stuff that I guess he didn't feel had value. But I wasn't as aggressive as some people. I believe some people may have come and just taken things. As to the rest of it, I don't know. Joe used to tell me that a lot of his stuff was in storage and it was going to somebody, and this person was paying his rent. Because I didn't notice how I once said that when you hang with these guys, you start getting very informal, and I'd say, so who's you don't do any shows, how you pay your rent, how you whatever. Of course, he went to shows, freebies. He had people pay for his dinner that time. I'm saying New York City office space, it's expensive, right? At least then,
Right.
And he said, well, there's somebody who is paying for his storage of his real collectibles and who will basically get those things when he passes and is paying his rent. And that's what he told me.
Wow.
So I'm not sure who this person was. I love Joe so much. He would say, keep me close. And I would come in after an audition, and I tell him about it. Says, "This is your year. You're going to get." He was a wonderful a light in my life, and but he bullshitted a lot. You know what I mean? But not a bullshit in a hurtful way, but in a enlightening way or a way to boost you up,
embellishing and
yes, in an old showbiz way, in in a way that Damon Runyon would have written a short story about him, you know.
Schmaltz it up.
So who knows what was the truth?
Right, right.
You know?
Well, I'm Bob. I could probably go down our list of all our shows and have questions for you about just about everyone there. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Sure.
It was all, as I said at the top of this, spur of the moment.
Yes.
But
I just came out of a hot shower. I'm still a little red in the face from it. Came from a hot shower, and we had the window closed because the wind was blowing like you wouldn't believe it.
Oh wow!
But thanks to my lovely wife, we got this together, and we're going to be late for a party, so I hope they forgive me. But
right.
but why don't we talk another time? We could discuss Hunts Hall, Gabe Dell, Groucho Marx. I got too many stories for you, I'm afraid. Too many.
Sounds good, Bob.
But I just want to end with saying that I love Joyce Randolph, and may she rest in peace.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for watching and joining us here with Bob. If you haven't seen Bob's comedy, check it out. You can find it online. And if you like what you're seeing here, be sure to like and subscribe. Bob, thanks again so much. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. All right. Enjoy the party.
I will.